We'll be back. Thank you very much for remaining with us. My name is Anthony and I am your host. Now, the stock market on Friday was quite full of action. We had a total of over 4 counters that participated in trading. Now, this is very, very important for you to know every single day on the stock market, how many people have been able to participate in trading, as of course this can inform whether these market performances are due to the activity on the market or due to other external factors surrounding these particular stock markets. Now, on Friday, that was the 29th of July, because if we had Friday 29th, then 30th, then 31st yesterday, and then today 1st of August, of course, we are beginning a new month. Closing the markets on Friday, of course, that was the last day of trading in the month. We had 4 Uganda Securities Exchange listed equities that participated in trading, and they ended with 5 gainers and 4 losers. And as I mentioned earlier in the first segment, Centum Investment led the gainers. And if you look at the gaining table there, we have already seen that he gained by over 14.75%. And then we are seeing East African breweries as well, who came in at an 8.19% gain. And you can see followed by Equity Bank Limited, who came in with a price appreciation of 5.38%, and KCB Bank at 0.88%, while NMG came in at a price appreciation of 0.53%. And now, amongst these top gainers, of course, we are seeing that there's no local company here. All of them are cross-listed from Nairobi, meaning the market moved in the positive direction overall, but domestically, we didn't have much movement, and that can be explained by the losers. Now, when we look at the losers on the market yesterday, we are seeing that DFCU Bank came in at the bottom there, and DFCU Bank came in with of course, an end-of-day price depreciation of 0.36%, ending the day with the price of 548 Ugandan shillings per share. And DFCU from the bottom there was also followed by another loss by MTN Uganda at 0.33% loss, ending the day with the price of 185.06 Ugandan shillings share. Of course, this is shillings per share. And then when we look at Stanbic Bank Uganda as well, it came in at a loss of 0.14%, ending with the price depreciating to 20.97 Ugandan shillings, and then down to Umeme Limited at 0.09%, lost by that particular price to 190.0 Ugandan shillings, meaning Umeme also cost the 200 shillings. If you remember, Umeme recently went up to prices as high as 240, 239, but recently we have seen a steady decline in these particular stocks prices, and we are seeing them now stabilize at over 190 Ugandan shillings per share there on the stock market as per the Friday. Now, this particular performance influenced a lot the indices, and when I talk about the indices, we are talking about performance trackers, of the aggregate performance trackers. They look at the average performance of the stocks, and the benchmark index is the all share index, the ALSI. This is what tracks the performance of all the listed equities. You can see that it went up, or it soared by 36.95, which is a very good indicator of good performance, and that was about a 2.93% increase in points. That's a daily gain in points to close the day at 1,296.43 points, as you can see there on that graph. And of course, it's showing 3 days ago, basically because we are looking at closure of these markets last Friday on the 29th of July 2022. And the USE Local Company Index, on the other hand, that is the index now that monitors or that tracks the performance of the local companies, the domestically listed companies. I'm talking about Stanbic, I'm talking about Umeme, I'm talking about MTN and the like, the 10 domestic listed companies. This index, on the other hand, decreased by 0.24% to 273.35 points. And in terms of 1 week, we are seeing that there is a weekly gain of 0.32% in this particular index, and a 4-week gain of 0.53%, and a year-to-date loss of 15.8%. So based on year-to-date performance, we are seeing a very significant decline, but that, of course, can be allayed by the fact that there is a 1-week gain of still 0.32% and a 4-week gain of 0.53%. And of course, that is monitoring the performance of the local indices. But going back to the all share index, in terms of weekly and monthly, and also in terms of year-to-date performance, we are seeing that there has been a 1-week gain of 5.36%, a 4-week gain still of 12.78%, and an overall year-to-date loss of 8.75%. This is rather, odd, of course, to explain the fact that the index began the year around January 2022 with points above almost 1,400, and right now we are talking about 1,200. So no matter how much we have gained on a weekly, how much we've gained on the monthly, that is on the 4-week basis, we are still losing out when it comes to year-to-date performance, because at the beginning of the year we really had very high points on the all share index, meaning at the beginning of the year we still had that bloom, of course, of companies which were performing very well with very good prices, and have since come down. So on average, we're seeing that the performance in 1 week in terms of the all share index is attractive, and it has gone up. As you can see, it has gone up by over this percentage of 2.93%. And then based on the 1 year-to-date performance, we have lost a little bit. We are still on the losing side. So we still have a little more work to do, a lot more work to do, matter of fact, as of course we can push this index even much higher. The indices, of course, we give us a very good picture. If you don't want to look into each particular stock, you always look out for the index, because this index gives you an overall picture of how the stock markets have performed. So if you're an investor and you want to know about a certain market, you don't have to really know about each and every company. You just ask about their indices, and these indices will give you a whole big picture of what the stocks look like. But if you would want to look into a much more detailed analysis, then you look at the companies themselves and see or monitor their individual performances here and there, so you can be able to understand how these markets have been able to work. Now, let's look at the details, especially of some of the stocks here that lost. Let's look at, for example, the bottom loser, DFCU Bank. DFCU Bank is a bank here known as Development Finance Company Uganda, and it's a financial institution incorporated in Uganda in 1964. DFCU Bank is converted from a private to a public limited liability company in the year 2004, when company's shares were listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange. It has been trading and of course has been listed on the exchange since 2010, and that is on October. As you can see, it trades under the ticker symbol CU, and the international securities identification number for this counter is UG000147. DFCU currently, and this is very important, is the 9th most valuable stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange, with a total market capitalization of over 410 billion, which makes about 1.84% of the total Uganda Securities Exchange. And when you look at, of course, the performance of this particular stock yesterday, I mean on Friday, we had a volume of over 1,735 shares that were traded on the DFCU Bank counter. And the gross turnover of these shares was 950,780. And when we talk about turnover, we're talking about the amount of money that was transacted through these shares. It's totaling up to 950,780 Ugandan shillings. The shares outstanding totally are, of course, in total, there are 748 million shares. Of course, the capitalization, like we said, being the 9th most valuable stock, it has a total capitalization currently of 410 billion Ugandan shillings. Now, DFCU Bank last Friday closed, like we've seen, at a market price of 548. Now, that was after a drop of 0.4% of its previous price. Closing price on Thursday, if you are following the markets, the Friday closing price of DFCU Bank was actually 550 Ugandan shillings, and closing the markets at 548 indicated a 0.4% decline in prices. DFCU began the year with the share price of 580 Ugandan shillings. And it's since that, of course, since that inception of the year, of course, as we monitor the year-to-date figure, we are seeing that the company has lost about 5.52% of its price valuation, ranking it still in the 9th position in terms of year-to-date performance. Remember, in terms of the most valuable stock, it's still the 9th, but also in terms of year-to-date performance, it is the 9th on the Uganda Securities Exchange out of the 18 listed equities. The DFCU counter is the 10th most traded stock. And these are all market indicators, market performance indicators of a particular stock. And it depends on the kind of investor who is investing really. A certain company or not. And we are seeing that this particular stock for DFCU is the 10th most traded, the 9th most valuable, and the 9th top performer for the year-to-date performance. And we look at all these three parameters in a sense that, first of all, the value of the stock gives you how much is there, how much money is there within this company, how much money is invested in these shares, how much are their shares worth. Are you interested? Are you an investor who is interested in the worth of the shares? Are you a shareholder who is interested in the value? Okay, so if you're an investor interested in the value, you're interested in companies with very huge value on the market, companies that have very lucrative, for example, let's say prices. Are you looking at value, adding value to yourself as an individual? Yes, it's a stock because it's coming in a 9th position. So you have 8 others ahead. So would you rather consider the more valuable ones, or you would consider actually this particular stock? Then when we talk about the year-to-date performance, that is comparing the stock price of this particular stock at the beginning of the year on the 1st of January to date. You compare that price and of course get the percentage either gain or percentage loss. It can be 0 if at all the price hasn't changed, but we are saying that you calculate the percentage by which this particular stock has changed. So that gives you kind of the analysis of the year's performance, this year's performance. how has this stock performed this year so far, because we have just gone the year into August. It's just the beginning of August. So you can see how has it performed so far, and then can I still expect this company to give me value in the long run or not? And still, that is a different type of investor. Other investors are looking out for liquidity. The investors, definitely, we don't advise that. As of course, financial markets here, we don't advise you to buy, and of course, looking at liquidity, that is, you buy today and you want to sell tomorrow. But of course, there are some people like that, and they would want to buy and maybe sell in the short term and make a little profit out of that sell. Now that, you look at the most traded stocks. When we look at that performance, you look at all the stocks and you look at where are people trading most. Because where people are trading most, it means that's exactly where you can easily find buyers, that's exactly where you can easily find sellers, and you can easily be able to buy and sell stock on that particular counter. And in terms of all these, the DFCU Bank company is in the 9th position for the value, the most valuable stock. It's in the 9th position in terms of year-to-date performance after that loss of 5%. And then it's in the 10th position in terms of the most traded stocks. Of course, now, when you look at the most traded stocks, it's over the past 3 months. That is April 22nd to July 29th, 2022. DFCU Bank has traded a total volume within this period of just about 5,053 shares, valued at 2.78 million shillings over this period, with an average of 80 shares traded per session and a volume high of 1,735, which was achieved last Friday on the 29th of the same period. Now, that is also important, the highest volume, because there are stock markets where there are stocks where you can find that the highest volume is over 2.5 million shares on a particular day, meaning on just a single day, there's a single day where over 2.5 million shares were transacted in this particular stock. And some people look at that as something that can indicate that whenever you want to make a bulk sale or you want to buy in bulk, the shares are available. And so it's something you also monitor in the last 3 months as well, to just simply track how this stock is also performing in that area. And we see not pretty much volumes there. We see 1,700, which was the peak volume last Friday in the last 3 months. And we see another volume of over 116 that was traded on the 11th of July. We see another volume of just 20 shares that was traded on the 8th of July, 2022. And then we see another one of about 1,000 shares that was traded on 5th of July. So they have had a very active July if you basically look at this performance with quite a number of shares that have been traded. However, these have resulted into a loss to over 548 Ugandan shillings. Of course, these loss in prices can be attributed to the fact that DFCU Bank was, of course, during their annual general meeting, they weren't able to release a dividend for their shareholders. And this is one of the factors that usually affects these stocks or these counters on the market. Whenever a certain counter doesn't declare a dividend, you see people pulling out and people are selling. When more people are selling, the more the stock price goes down, because it means the supply is in excess and the demand is not. And that is how exactly the price comes tumbling down. During the period ended December 2021, DFCU's net profits also dropped by over 48% to 13.25 billion Ugandan shillings. And that was also an indicator. Definitely people, after you produce your financial results with a loss, people definitely sometimes, but this is not always the best option. Sometimes these companies could bounce back and they could get a little more value on your stock. They could declare a dividend the following year, but it's up to you still as a shareholder. If you feel like you want to move out of a company, no one can stop you. You have to make your own decision based on your own intuition, as well as based on the financial knowledge at hand that you have about a certain situation. Otherwise, this particular stock at DFCU is also, of course, amongst other competitors like Stanbic Bank, KCB Bank, who are competing in the same financial services sector, and you can monitor as well their performance and maybe compare and contrast and see which one suits you best. But that was DFCU for you. He came out at the bottom last Friday after losing over 0.4% of her price valuation, ending the day with a market price of 548 Ugandan shillings. And of course, now we have definitely other losers. But before we go into those other losers down on the market, Otex East Africa is reminding you that you can now trade on securities across East Africa